Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Bonjour, Alan.
How are you?
Good. Comment allez-vous?
Très bien, merci.
Très bien, merci. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so happy today, and now we are together with Professor Alan Rival, the Resident Director for Southeast Asia Island countries, SIRAT. And today we are going to talk about the very, very important issues in the academic life. Is it right, Alan?
It is.
So we know that the problems that faced by most of Indonesian researchers and also lecturers is about how to publish their papers in a high-impact journal. And even this is the policy of our governments, the Indonesian governments, especially because they require for any lecturer who wants to get the professorship, one of the requirements that they need to publish in a reputable international journal. So today I think this is a very good opportunity for all of you, all the members of UMP lecturers. This is very golden chance just to listen from the experts on publication, and also we have a very nice discussion after that. So before we start, I'd like to introduce our speakers for you who haven't known yet, but I'm sure that among the member of UMP's community, Alan is very popular because he has already been with us for many years, especially in cooperation with Professor Sunandar in developing coconut copier. So Professor Alan Rival is the Resident Director for Southeast Asia Island countries and the coordinator for oil palm research at SIRAT. SIRAT is the French Center for International Cooperation in Agricultural Research for Development. Professor Alan Rival is an agronomist by training and a plant molecular physiologist, and he received his PhD in plant biotechnology from the University of Montpellier in 1988, and then he spent the first years of his career running collaborative plant biotechnology programs overseas, is that right? Including Indonesia, Ivory Coast, Malaysia, and also Costa Rica. And Professor Rivals qualified for the habilitation of Research Director in Life Sciences in 1997. From the University of Paris, and he is a qualified professor in biology and physiology since 2002. Professor Rival spent 2 years as a Marie Curie International Fellow at the SARO plant industry in Canberra, Australia, and within the framework of a European Commission funded project in plant epigenetics called EPIDEF. And right now, Professor Rival is based in Jakarta, and he moved here since September 2014 as the coordinating SIRAT collaborative research programs and partnership in the region. Invited professor at University Putra Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur in 2015 and 2016. Professor Rival is also the author and co-author of more than 80 research articles. Wow, this is a very huge number of articles you have produced so far, Alan. And also some book chapters. So Alan also co-authored the book La Pomme des Controverses. Maybe this pronunciation is not that good in French, with Patrice Levac in 2013. And it's published by Kui Publisher, and he was the scientific editor of the recent book Achieving Sustainable Cultivation of Oil Palm by the Borley Science Publishing. Although without any further ado, we are going to listen Alan's ideas about how to publish in a high-ranked journal. Okay, Alan, time is yours. Maybe you have around 45 minutes to talk, and then we are going to continue with question and answer session. Please welcome.
Okay, thank you very much, Pa. It's not a lecture, so I just want to talk among colleagues and try to give you a few ideas. And first of all, I would just like to convey a very simple message. Publishing is easy. Publishing is not something which is out of your feasibility. It's just something you have to understand, and you have to understand. And you're sending the source back to Linux or back to Ubuntu, those guys, and then you share with the others and you make it better. So imagine that publishing science is the same. You just do your job, and then you publish, and then it goes back to the community, and it becomes helpful for the others. If you don't share, it's just like you did nothing. If you don't share, just like your research does not exist. So sharing is very important. Next. You have to show the quality of your research, because if you don't try, you will never know. Your research is going to be assessed by other professors, other lecturers, the same as you. They are just people like you and me. It's not a secret society or secret something or a mafia or whatever you can imagine. It's just a group of scientists like you and me. So it's peer-to-peer assessment. This peer-to-peer assessment means that your evaluation is done by other people with the same goals as you have. So you have to show to your sponsors, you have to show to your university that the money they gave you has been used properly. So publishing is also required to show the adequate use of the research funds, whether it comes from private funds or public funds. Could be a grant, could be a fellowship, could be a donation from a foundation, but you have to show that you did the best with this money. And the best way to show that you make a good use of this money is by publishing. Next. And you have to publish also to have an impact, to show that you're existing. And this is the basis of attractivity. Your university, your ministry, they will use your publication to show that university is doing its job. You will see a lot of ranking from China, from the US, from Europe, ranking your university as number 1, number 2, number 100, you never know. But when you become as a master student, and you are at the time of choosing your university, imagine you're a master student trying to... Okay, thank you very much. Where's the pointer? This one? Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. So when the students want to choose the best university to make an application, they will use your attractivity and your reputation. So publishing results also is a step in building this attractivity. Beautiful. Publish or perish. This is a traditional joke, but it is something very important. It just means that if you don't publish, you're not existing. Suddenly you're going to perish, your lab is going to disappear, or your activity is going to disappear. People don't know you're existing. People don't know what you're doing. So you begin with an idea, like any project. You do your research, then you publish your research, and then you repeat it again. If you break this circle, you just perish. That's simple. But careful, it's not publish or perish, it's publish or perish. Nanda knows it very well. It's a very cold place, but it's a good place. So you have to enhance this virtuous circle. It's a circle which begins with results, then you go to a publication, then the publication builds your attractivity, and because you're attractive, the sponsors come to your place, or the sponsor build confidence on you, say, okay, he's a good guy, he's got a good lab, he's got very good papers, so we can put money on him, on her or his group. And then if you got sponsor, you got money to doing research and have another bunch of results. So this circle never stops. If you break the circle, your institution, your lab, and yourself as a researcher, you're really in bad shape. You have to continue this activity. Next one. Yeah. So the first lesson is not reinventing the wheel. Publishing for what? Publish for my organization, because this is the one guy who is paying you. So your organization needs to know that you're working well, needs to know that your projects are good, needs to know that your results are interesting. So I'm publishing for my organization. I'm publishing for my group, because if we work hard, if the boss is asking so much, is coming here on weekends, asking you to shorten sometimes your holidays, you have to, if you're a group manager, you have to show the people that it's worth the effort, that what we did as a team was very good and deserves some recognition. And publication is recognition. And I have to show to my colleagues what I'm doing, not reinventing the wheel, not publishing the same old article on the same old subject, which is always the same story. We'd never get published if you always tell the same story. Not reinventing the wheel. Try to bring something new. Try to publish something interesting. And then publishing the same for myself, because my career as a scientist is also assessed from the publication I make. So if I don't do any publication, nobody knows my value, nobody knows what I'm doing, and nobody knows what is the value of my research institution. So you're publishing for many, many different people, from yourself to your groups, to your colleagues, and to your organization as a whole. So how to publish? The first step is reference mining. What has been done already? Because you can be very proud of yourself, you can be very optimistic, you can be very ambitious, and that's not a defect for me, that's a very good sign of character, but be careful, be humble. Probably somewhere in the world has already worked on your subject. Maybe not on a different way, maybe differently, but you have to be sure that you're not doing something which has already been implemented, which already has cost money to your government or your company, and has already been published. So data mining, reference mining. I will show you which kind of software you can use to be sure that you're publishing something which is original, which hasn't already been done somewhere by someone else. And be humble. Very rarely you're beginning from scratch. Very rarely, quite never. Most of the case, you're just continuing something someone has already done. So it's a continuation, an improvement, or a new application of a former project. So be humble. So recognize that when it's published, it's a good value paper, so you can trust it. Trust is very important. So if someone has made a good paper on this subject and said, okay, I found this, and that, yeah, it's a good instrument to say, okay, I don't have to reinvent the wheel. This group has already done the job. I have to do something different. This assessment is independent from institution. You're assessed by a colleague. You're not assessed by a group of colleagues or by a university. It's very independent. It's really an individual process. And no conflict of interest, of course. You must not be evaluated by people you know or people who already know you. If I'm a reviewer and I receive a paper from some of my former students or some of my colleagues, I always say, no, I cannot make a judgment on that because I know these people. I know them so well that I will not be impartial. So I prefer to say no, find another referee that I prefer not to be a referee from this work now. And there's no money. And then we talk later about predator publishers. Don't forget that. There should be no money, except very prestigious paper like Nature or Science that might ask you for, if they want, if you want to be on the cover or if you want to have a very nice picture, high definition printing. Those costs are transparent. If you want to pay, you pay, but it will not impede your publication. Publication must be free. If someone accepts your paper and says, oh, sorry, you have to pay $200, it's a predator. Publishing and referring are free. When I'm referring, when I spend hours and weekends working on paper from people I don't know, it's free. I'm not paid for that. And this is a key. There's no money involved in the peer-to-peer assessment. Keep that in mind, because it's changing, and a lot of publishers are new on the market, and they're here for the money, not for the glory. So my favorite tool for reference mining is Google Scholar. I don't share any interest in Google. They don't pay me, but I use them a lot. And look at that example. I take one of my very bad colleagues called Sisudanda. I don't know if you know him. But just typing his name as an author, I get all, in a fraction of seconds, I got everything has been published by this guy. So this is a fantastic tool to make some reference mining. And in this case, I use the name, but I can use a project. I will show you, this is me, the same, it gives you all the statistics, which year you published the most, which are your co-authors. This is a list of my most published papers. It's interesting to see that some of them had a very good success. 264 people have read this paper or cited this paper, which is very good to have an idea of when you did well. This means that the paper was well written, well distributed, so the people have access to it, and they use it for their own research. That's very important. So this is a couple of things you can do with Google Scholar, and it's very, very convenient tool for me. Sorry. And it provides you with the K numbers. If you don't want, if you're applying for a position, or if you're just sending a short memo of your work, you don't need 50 pages of your CV. Nobody will read that. You need those numbers, your hash index and your hash 10 index. It just gives you an idea of your publishing activity. The hash index has been built like, I will show you in details, but if you're a normally active lecturer with not so much teaching, if you're full-time in research, you should have published one paper per year, more or less. So my number is something between 25 and 30, I don't remember, 27, and I have more or less 30 years of activity. So I'm in the middle range. I'm not an exceptional publisher. I'm not a bad one. I'm in the middle range. But you know, it's very, it's not an absolute measurement, because in some areas like social sciences, it's more easy to publish. So you can publish much, which are much higher frequency that you can do with experimental science, because you need time to take your samples, to make your experiments, to verify, and so on and so on. Just to give you an idea. Yeah, this is another example in which I use a keyword like copier, and I had all the papers coming out, and you can choose the most recent one or all the papers, so you can dig. There's no limit. The only limit is your time. Publishing what? Almost everything. And this is another thing you have to think about very precisely. You can publish anything. If it's well written, if it's a good subject, you will find someone who is interested in publishing you. Of course, research results, but also review papers, because your colleagues sometimes don't have time to collect all the information and make an abstract or a resume of what has been published. So this is a review paper, could be very useful, saving a lot of time for your colleagues. You don't have to dig again and do the job. Sometimes when you're beginning a research project or a PhD project, you can use this review paper just to make a use of all the work you've done before beginning your research. So you publish a review, you can publish a protocol, you can publish a patent, you can publish maps, software, success stories, position papers. You see someone, even in the Jakarta Post, who you don't like, or you want to add a few information. So you can publish a position paper in a newspaper like Jakarta Post or in another scientific paper. It's not based on your research, it's not based on your experiments, it's just a position, it's just your opinion. I should have asked also position papers, opinion papers, policy briefs. My government should do this and that. Newsletters, they are also published. Anything can be published. If it's a good quality story with a beginning, an end, and something interesting between the two, yeah, you can publish. And what's a publication? It's a story. It has a beginning and an end. Why did we work on Copior? Because we want to understand why this mutant is so sought after by the farmers, or we want to make more so that the farmers get more money. Okay, this is the abstract. So the beginning is how to get the nuts, and the end is, okay, we end up in propagating this material. And between the two, there's the story. And then put all the story in one paper. Maybe it's a long story. So it's better if you make one story per publication. You make one paper, or how difficult it was to get this material. A second paper say, okay, look at how difficult it was to make them make leaves and roots, and then look at what we did when you plant in the field, and then we are assessing the fruiting and sending back to the farmers. So there are 4 different stories in the same story. So don't try to make a big paper who say the whole story. Maybe it's more clear, it's more interesting to have a paper which describes only part of the story. Keep it simple. Use a very simple wording, very simple English. Don't try to make complicated long sentence. It's very boring. Keep it simple, keep it short, and keep it entertaining. Remember that your colleagues are reading a lot of papers every day. So if it's boring, they will not read it. So if it's entertaining, if you show that you've got a good idea and a funny idea, and there are some applications and there are some partnerships which are interesting for other people, it's okay. Your story is going to be interesting. So. And there are so many journals. So one of the main difficulties after writing is to find a journal which is adequate to your research. Of course, you're seeking the biggest impact factor, but sometimes it's too difficult. So have a look on the website of the instruction to authors, and they will explain you what is the topic of the journal, what kind of paper they accept or they don't like. So it saves you a lot of money, because there are so many journals around. The real journal, the fake journals, the predator journals. So be careful. Don't send your manuscript to someone you don't know or a journal you don't know. Look at the website, look at the reference, ask your colleagues, where did you publish your papers? Okay, this journal, it's from Elsevier or it's from Springer. It's a real journal, it's not a predator, so maybe I will try there. Yes, good idea. So this is how the impact factor is calculated. It's a ratio between the citation this paper had on this subject on a given period. This is 2 years, for example, 2015 and 2016. And what they should have done, the number of items which are citable in their journal. So it gives you an idea of how many papers have been published on a given subject. So the higher it is, the better it is. For example, Nature and Science, they are around 20. The papers we publish with Danda on horticultural project is between 2 and 3. It's around this ratio, 2.5. This is decent journals, not too difficult, and it corresponds well to the type of research we're doing. This is a list, for example, of the journal in my field, which is plant science. And you see it in plant science, there's a range between 10 and 1.5. This is where I will stick my journals. If I know it's not a big breakthrough, maybe I will go to the lower part of the table, try to find a journal between 1.5 and 2 should be enough. If you think it's a big piece of research with a lot of collaboration, and it took you 2 to 3 years to get all the research done and all the statistics, maybe you begin publishing in a bigger journal. And you see, if you're rebutted, okay, you go to the smaller one. But you have to begin with a big one. If you begin with a small one, you'll never go up. Just a couple of words on predatory publishers. This is a funny cartoon. They look like they are sheep, they are wolves. They look like they are very friendly. They make your publication very easy. Sometimes they say, yeah, you're going to have a free book or free something or free conference. They try to attract you. That's not normal. A normal journal doesn't attract you. They have too much papers, so they don't want to attract you because they have enough job to do. So there are entities who are here for their self-interest. I showed you that publishing is something for the community. It's something which is free of charge. Nobody is paid. The reviewer is not paid. The publisher maybe is paid because it's a private company, but the author, the scientific people, they are not paid. So if you got a letter and it happens every week or so in my email and receive a letter from a journal I have heard about. We are a very good journal. We are based in Switzerland, so they have all the tricks. They don't say they're based in China or Vietnam or in a different country. They say they are in a very reputable country. So they try to attract you, and at the end of the day, it will cost you money. And they are very aggressive. If you answer once, they will again and again, they will send you email and so again and again. So the rule is very simple. Think, check, and then submit. Not submit too early. Think and check.
Check, submit.
Yeah.
Think.
Talk to your friends, talk to your colleagues, and say, okay, I have some doubt. I'm not sure about this journal. It's the first time I've heard about it. Should be a predator journal. It's better to avoid that. Because what happens, especially in Europe, if you publish in too many predator journals, your list of publication will not be considered as a normal one. So your papers will be erased from the list. So you have to be very prudent on that. So you can use a couple of agencies like COPY, like DOAG, Directory of Open Access Journal, the Committee on Publication Ethics. Have a look on that. But the best way, the simple way, you know your topic, you know your research subject. Have a look on what your colleagues have already published and in which journal it has appeared. And it's the simple way to be sure that this is a real journal, we do not charge you and will not end up in a bad situation for you. And another point interesting to point out is that an article is a very standardized exercise. It's not just like sitting down on your desk and say, okay, I will tell this story. So once upon a time, blah, 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 blah. Now, it's a very strict procedure. It's a very defined and a very standardized procedure. Find a title, an abstract, keywords, introduction, material and methods. You cannot escape that. Which doesn't mean that, like for your PhD, doesn't mean that you have to begin with step one and then go down. You can begin with material and methods because you're afraid of forget what you did in your experiment. You can begin with introduction, so it warms you up. You say, okay, I will just introduce my subject, so maybe I will have some ideas later on. Keywords and abstract will be at the end. Usually the title is at the end because you work for several months on this subject and then you find a nice title at the end. Doesn't mean that the procedure has to be, in time has to be 1, 2, 3, but you cannot avoid going through this procedure. Then you explain your results, you discuss your results, and you end up with the conclusion and acknowledgements and the reference. Sometimes you have time to put some perspectives in your conclusion. So the form is very strict. If you're missing one of the steps, the journal will say, okay, interesting paper, but we need an introduction, or we need keywords, or we need a stronger conclusion with perspectives, and so on. So this project paper will be evaluated as good, bad, outstanding, average by your colleagues, by your peers. I just give you an example of, I was a referee for a journal, I'm still refereeing a lot, and it is the kind of question the journal is asking to the referees. Does it go with the journal? Is it of scientific importance? Is it of practical importance? Is it new? And is it sound because you made all the controls, all the statistics on those methods? This is true for every scientific paper. And is it clearly written, well organized? There's an abstract, keywords, are they adequate? The introduction, you state the aim of the research and the present knowledge without forgetting anything. Is your material and methods complete? This is very important because someone reading your article should be able to redo the experiment. And this is a key. You have to be very precise in the material and methods. For you also, because maybe in 20 years or 10 years, we have to redo the experiment, and if you're missing an information, you will never be able to do it again. So it should be a pity. But your colleagues, your students, they must be able to redo the experiment exactly the same way as you did. So that's why the material and methods must be complete and very precise. Tables and figures, are they redundant? You don't have to give the same information on the figures and on the tables. You have to choose a form. It saves time and money to make a drawing or a figures. Most of the time it's more interesting. Discussion, be careful, don't speak too much about your results. If it's just a preliminary study or just a partial study, be careful not to make too much noise about this paper, because you have to be humble. Maybe it needs verifications, it needs another study. So the discussion must be adequate with the size of your results. If you discuss too much, usually the referee doesn't like it. You're trying to make a lot of noise with something which is not very, very solid. And on the contrary, if you're too shy, you got a lot of results, very interesting, but you don't speak enough about them, the referee will tell you, your discussion is not adequate because it's missing this, this, and that. It's going to be much better. As a referee, I understand my job as making the article better, not saying no and putting it into the bin. There's no use of that. I try to discuss with the author, say, okay, if you do this and that, then your paper is much clearer and much interesting for the reader. Citation of a literature. It's not necessary to put everything you've read. Just choose the best paper or the most useful paper you want to cite, Your paper is not going any better if you're citing 200 guys. You just have to find 5 which are very good. And then comes a verdict, the overall assessment. So I have to tell the editor-in-chief of the journal if it is worth or not publishing this paper. It is accepted as it is now because it's already good. Just a few changes I don't like or some sentence I don't understand. But yes, it's acceptable and you can publish in this journal. Yes, it's accepted by case B, it's accepted by, I need some revision. There are a few things missing. For example, statistical analysis. Or you need more references. Or there are some key references which are not cited. So please improve your paper and then resubmit to the reviewers. Most of the time it's the same reviewers. So you save time, don't have to read it again and again. You just have a look at what has been improved, and then we say yes or no. Sometimes the revisions are major. The paper is interesting. The subject is good. The experiment is not that bad, but there's a lot of things missing. So we go back to the journal. We say, yes, it's accepted, but you have to do this, this, and that. And you have to do that within a certain date. It's not do that before next year. It's January, you've got just a couple of months to remake the experiment or to find other data which are missing. So, but you can consider your paper is accepted. And in the worst of cases, it happens. The paper is so bad that I cannot accept it. Even with major revision, it's going to take a lot of time because the way the subject is treated is not compatible with the journal, so it has to be rejected. Which I don't like because I know that preparing a paper is a big job. So it's a very long journey from the manuscript, then you send it to the journal editor. Now it's good because it's online, but remember that when I began my job 30 years ago, you have to send by the post. And if you send to an American journal, it can take 2-3 weeks, sometimes 1 month. And I remember my first paper was for a German journal. It took 1 year just because it took 2 weeks to send a letter to Germany at the time. So you send to you're submitting online now. It's very, very quick. So the journal editor has a look. He has a look at the article, very quick look. Sometimes the journal is just asking for an abstract. So the editor is looking at the abstract, say, okay, he can reject here, saying, okay, it's not at all in the scope of my journal. You should try this and this. And if it's okay, he sent to the referees, 2 or 3 referees. So usually we have several weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, 1 month at the maximum to read the article and make our comments online. And then comes back to the journal editor who takes a decision. As I showed you, can be accepted with minor or major modification or rebutted. If it's accepted, go to the proofreading. So it's okay. You just go to the printer, make some correction, changing the color, changing the titles, minor things, but you're on the right track. Your paper is going to be published very soon. Minor modification, you have to go back to the journal editor, or it's another cycle. Can be quick as well. Could be several weeks or 1 week. If it's really minor, the journal editor can do by itself or go back to the referees. Sometimes it doesn't go back to the referees. Okay, the minor modifications have been done. The paper is okay, so we go directly into the proofreading. If it's major modification, it has to go back also to the manuscript editor. But if it's rebutted, end of the story. You have to go to another journal. You can resubmit on a very different shape to the same journal, but I will not recommend it, or go to another journal. And if you succeed at the end, yes, you got your paper. This is the first one we had with Sisunanda, and the winner is, you're very happy, you got this very clear, well-presented article. You can show to your friends, you can show to your colleagues. Job done. Mission accomplished. And this is my last message. never, never, ever give up.
Never.
Because there's always a journal, there's always a way to present your results, there's always a way to redo your experiments, or present to a conference, ask your colleagues. There's always a way to improve your article. So never give up, never. If it doesn't succeed the first time, it will succeed the second or the third. So this is my take-home message. With that, I close my talk, and thank you very much for your kind attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Alan, for sharing with us very great ideas about publication. In the next 20 minutes, I'd like to ask all the audience to have a question and answer session. You can just directly speak by unmuting your microphone, or also if you like, you can also type your questions on the chat room. But while waiting for the questioners from the floor, I'd like to ask you, you mentioned in the beginning of your presentation something which is different from our common understanding, that I'm sure that most of us will think that publishing is very difficult, especially on high impact journal. But you just ensure us by saying that publication is actually easy. What do you mean by that actually, Alan?
I just mean that it's a question of discipline. It's like your kid learning piano, or violin, or an instrument. It looks like it's difficult since you begin. It's Nelson Mandela the Great said that you think it's impossible since you made it. So I would just copy and paste what Nelson Mandela said. You think it's too difficult for you, but it's not. You just have to be very disciplined to understand what are the instructions and follow the instruction. And then don't be shy. You submit your paper, and there will never be, and this is the magic of peer reviewing, there will never be an abrupt no. This happened maybe with your girlfriend. You might have a no, which is a no, but for your publication it's different. I'm a referee for many journals, and I never say just no. I think it's very rude, and it's very discouraging, because those people, they made an effort of sorting their results, looking at their lab book, and then try to make it to write it in an attractive way to show their results. So they need some consideration. Yeah. They need some rewards for their efforts. So the minimal reward you can give to them is to have a careful look at what they propose, and say, yes, I like it. This I don't like because you're going too fast. This I like because it's very original. If you can add this and that, it's going to be a fantastic paper. Yeah. I'm always very positive with the authors, because I know it's a long effort, especially when you're lecturing at the same time. Means that you need some quiet weeks or months to sit down on your desk and write your paper. So I acknowledge the effort. Yeah. The effort of formalizing your research, on presenting a nice paper. So I always try to give some positive comment.
Okay. So once you succeeded in publishing your paper, so the next step will be much more easier, just like what you have told us before, that maybe in the beginning it will be very difficult. Yeah, just imagine, when you're riding a bicycle at the first time, so you need to.
The first one is always the most
always difficult.
It's the same like your master's or your PhD thesis,
Yeah, exactly.
The first one, you don't know where to go, you don't know if it's too long or too short, or you're worried about missing some information. But the peer reviewing process is, the beauty of this is that it's very progressive. Yeah. So if your paper is accepted with major modification, that's a very positive step. Means that the journal is interested in publishing it. Yeah. So you keep going, working and try to answer the question that the referees asked you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Alan. Bapak Ibu, maybe ada pertanyaan, you can write down in Indonesian if you like.
Hello.
Someone speaking?
From me, Tonal speaking.
Oh yes, please. Go ahead.
Okay.
Pak Suwartono. Yeah.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Still morning. Good morning, Professor Alan.
Yeah, good morning.
All right. I'm from the Department of English Language Teaching at this university. I'm very impressed with your presentation. The material is also good, and I'm also interested in your, two things. One is the term you used. For me, this is my first, at least for me, it is a reference mining. Thanks for that term you introduced to us. And the second one is your message: never give up. Yes, you can categorize me as a militant author, militant writer. I've become one of the victims in publication because I've published 7, articles, but 5 are gone. 5 are gone with the wind. They are discontinued by the scopus. Yeah, but again, I've never gave up. Never given up. Then I'm just trying to ask for confirmation, Alan, Professor Alan,
yes.
In relation with your statement, the independent from institutions. What do you mean really by that? All I know is some journals ask the authors to suggest reviewers. Let's say one of them is from the internal institution.
Yeah, it's not recommended.
It's not recommended.
Yeah, I would suggest to avoid if the journal is asking for external reviewers, try to find people who are really external to your job. First, because if you're recommended by someone who already knows you, you lose most of the benefit of the peer assessment, because the peer assessment is something which must be as neutral as possible. So people who are assessing you, usually they don't know you, they don't know your research, so they have a very new eye on your research. So they have no ideas about the conflicts, about this guy was formerly from this university, then he moved there, then he took the group, and then he took the money, blah, blah, blah. All the stories we have in the academic world, usually it's erased by the peer review. It has to be as natural as possible. I would not recommend to suggest reviewers from a very close circle. I would much prefer recommending what I did. Usually I recommend people I have heard about. I've heard about their work, but I don't know personally. So they can be really independent. Yeah. And the fact is, don't forget that peer reviewing is an individual decision. So you might not see it, but your report will be sent by your colleague referees to the editor-in-chief of the journal, but it's someone, it's not the institution. It's signed by Alain Rival or by someone. It's not signed by CIRAD or signed by UMP. The assessment is done by one of your colleagues as an individual, not as a body or an institution. And it is also a way of avoiding the war between institutions, competing institutions. I'm not naive. I know that there's a strong competition between the best one, This is in nature. I don't like it, but it's the way it is. So the peer-to-peer referring is designed to avoid this kind of bias, this kind of difficulties. I hope it's clear enough.
Yeah, that's quite clear. Thank you.
Yeah, is that enough, Mr. Suratana?
Don't forget, never give up.
Never ever
give up.
Semangat, Pak.
Absolutely.
5 gone, 10
I've
will
got
come soon.
2 are left. No, only 2 are left in the reputable.
Yeah.
It's much more than 0. So
Now, one is in production, already accepted.
Good.
One is in production, and then 2 are still waiting.
Okay. That's very good progress, I
yeah,
think.
that's good.
Yeah.
Positive.
Okay. Thank you and good luck, Pak Wartono, for your upcoming
Thanks,
journals.
Professor, thanks, Pak Chandra.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Good luck. Okay, Professor Alan, we have questions from one of our viewers. This time is from Irawan. He is asking about, is there any online services to convert our words in article to be more academic words? Maybe this is in the context that some of our researchers just write the result of the research in Bahasa, and sometimes the main problem is how to translate them into English in which the language sounds more academic. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I know it's a difficulty, and I know it's a major drawback here in Indonesia.
Yeah.
But I would really recommend to work on your English and to use the services of. If your research is good, if it's only a question of some mistakes in English, I think the journal can correct it. You have to do the best of what you can using automatic translators, which are not a good solution, but talking with your colleagues who are good in English to make it as good as you can, sending to colleagues who are international authors. Yeah. It's a different English. It's not a literary English. It's a kind of jargon. It's a kind of way of presenting your sentences, which is always the same. A kind of music of publication, which is almost always the same. Someone has to train you. And maybe it's worth for a big university like here to hire someone who is really trained in scientific publications. Okay. CIRAD is quite a modern and efficient research centers, but believe me or not, we have something like probably between 100 and 200, surely more than 100 sessions for English writing. So even in a developed country, even if in a international institution like us, we still need to improve our English communication. Whatever is it on conference or whatever it is on writing. So maybe it's a message to your rectors and your deans here in UMP, is that you need a position as an English master or an English lecturer, which is really dedicated to scientific writing. Because this is a rule. It's not my rule. I'm French, I'm not English, but I have to write my result in English. Okay. I have to go to conference and give my results in English. And even if I am Italian, or if I am Spanish, or if I am from Honduras, or even from the North Pole, I have to write in English. This is a rule.
Yeah. Okay, so the message is simple and clear. Improve your academic writing ability.
Yeah, and if it's too difficult,
you may ask someone else to assist you with that
even
process.
if it's not perfect in scientific English, it's a nice step. Maybe it's enough to submit in an English paper.
Okay.
English speaking paper.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. We're moving to the second question still from the audience. This time is from Linda. Dear Professor, is there any trusted website for checking the predatory journal? You are talking about the predatory journal, and this is something scary for most of us here, right? So what is the easiest way how to recognize? Can we check on the websites?
Yes. In my slides, we have the address of the name of two websites, and the simple way is to check what has already been published in your field of competency. For example, if you work on pharmacy, on the pharmacy of this group of elements, when you do your reference mining, you will end up with always the same series of journals. So it's better if you try to publish in these journals.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So actually, Professor Alan has already included,
It's somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere else in his presentation slides.
Yes.
Professor, I would like to ask you: is it okay if some of
UAG and Web of Science.
So this is the website for that.
Yeah, you have to check those journals are registered here.
Yeah.
If they are not there, it's not a good sign.
Okay. Is it okay to share this material to the participants of this?
Of course.
Of course. Okay. So if some of them require this material, we can share to them. Okay.
And at the end of my talk, there will be my email address.
Yeah.
If you have a specific question on the specific journal,
nice.
you just send me an email.
Nice. Yeah.
Because those guys are really wolves. They are really nasty because sometimes they just change a few letters in the name of the journal.
Oh, really? Yeah.
For example, it's the International Journal of Cosmetics. Okay, it's in the database. It's in the Web of Science, and the guy creates a fake journal, which is International Journal of Cosmetic Science. It sounds like it is, but it's fake. And if you then, at the beginning, I was like you are. I said, wow, this journal is writing to me to produce an article. I'm so famous. I'm very proud. This will never happen. A journal, whatever is very high rank or middle rank, will never send you a proposal for an article.
They are too busy with their job. They have no time.
There are already so many. So usually if someone is asking you, say, oh, you're very good, I read your article in this journal, could you please send us an article in our paper? This is predatory.
Predatory. Okay, so we must be careful, especially with this predatory journal.
Yeah, think and check
fake.
before submitting.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. While we are waiting for the other questioner, Alan, you have been reviewing journal for a long time. So maybe sometime as a writer, we would like to know what is a good article in the eyes of reviewers. So maybe what the writer should do and what they should not do in their article.
Yeah, it's almost already in my talk, but think about telling a story to someone. Your article must have a begin and a end. So don't try to put everything. Don't try to put 20 years of research in a single paper. It will never work. But try to make a story which has a beginning and a end, and which is different than the other stories. So, good advice should be to find a simple scenario. What happened during my research? What happened which is interesting and which I never seen in other papers. Okay. The originality is very important as well.
Okay, yeah, this is good. So this is what is called as the novelty of the research, is it right?
Yeah.
So you're not doing the same thing again.
Not reinventing the wheel.
The wheel is already there. You don't need to do that. Okay, Bapak Ibu, mungkin masih ada pertanyaan lagi. So this is very good opportunity. We are together with our experts on research publication. Okay, silahkan. Please don't be shy if you have any questions. to Professor Alan. Okay, Professor Alan, I'm interested also in your statement. Yeah, as the reviewers, maybe you have read a lot of paper, yeah, and in your opinions, what will be the main reasons for the rejection of a paper?
Usually, it's maybe the most usual is overstatement. You got a tiny bunch of results, and you want this result to be the Nobel Prize. So you have to be humble, and sometimes only in the way you're presenting, or the title of your article. If you just put in your title, okay, preliminary results on this, this, and that. So the referee knows it's preliminary.
Yeah.
It's just a first attempt to do the research. You know that it's not perfect. You know that it's just a beginning.
Yeah.
But you're trying to submit a paper because you think that there's always there's enough results.
Yeah.
And most of the time there's not enough.
Yeah.
The story is not. Think about the story. It has to be a convincing story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If you tell a story to your kid or your grandkid and you end up in the middle of a story, they say, "Hey,
what's next?"
you didn't tell me why the wolf didn't hear the grandmother, or you didn't me what happened to the crocodile and the coconut. You said he was died because of the coconut, but I didn't see it in your story.
Yeah.
It's a joke, but it's true.
Yeah.
Your story must be complete.
Yeah.
And most of the time, the article I have to reject or I have to send back to the editor is because it's a good start, but it's not enough.
Not enough.
Which doesn't mean that you should have not published. No, it's a good idea to send it to the journal, and they will always answer you.
Okay.
They will say, okay, our referee said it's not enough, sorry, but you should improve doing this and that. So you don't waste your time and money.
Yeah.
You gotta, it's not like talking with your colleagues on the other corridor, on the other room. They should say, yeah, okay, it's interesting, but I'm not convinced because this is my favorite sentence. I'm not convinced. You didn't do enough to convince me. I'm convinced it's a good idea. I convinced you choose the right material and the methods. But for me to be really convincing, I would like to be sure that this and that happened. If you already do that research, okay, just mention it and give me your results. If you don't do yet, okay, you still have time to do it again.
Yeah.
It's a iterative process. It never comes, I try to remember, but it never happened to me that a paper came back as perfect and not good enough. So it never happened to me that I had a letter from the editor saying, wow, fantastic, thank you very much. We just publish it tomorrow. This never happened. No. I always had to change a few things and then resend it again and change and reconsider the writing and then... Or sometimes you want another difficulty, another reason for papers are rejected because you want to put too much. You want to put all the research you did for 20 years in a 20-page paper. This is too much. So you have to choose a subject, you have to choose a line. It's like when someone is writing an article for a newspaper. You don't write an article on Indonesia. You write an article on how Indonesia can survive the COVID. This is a subject. It's the smallest topic, so you can put a few ideas, not 20, maybe 2 or 3 major ideas. I would prefer a paper with 1 or 2 very good conclusions than a paper who says everything about anything, but at the end you don't know what the use of it. So keep it clear and simple, and ask you the simple question. Is it true or not, or is it enough or not, or is it a statement, or do we need another experiment? Yeah, simple questions. So if you ask simple questions, the reviewer will be happy because he understands that you're managing your subject you know what you're talking about, and you don't want to put too much things in one single article. Which is probably the other major reason of rejection is too general, too not focused enough papers.
Okay. So those are the points that need to be avoided by the writer, so that your paper will be considered to be published. Sure. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure that you still have more questions, but unfortunately we have limited time. So maybe we need to honestly highlight some of Professor Allen's that have already told us that actually publication is not that difficult. So it means that it's easy in terms of you need to do something, a very, very hard effort at the beginnings, and once your paper is accepted in any journal, so the next steps will be much more easier, and I think this is very strong word. Never, ever give up.
Give up.
In writings, in publishing. Wow, that's very strong words. And I think that I will remember that words along my life. Okay.
Just a joke.
Okay. Finally, we come to the end of this discussion. It's very nice, very inspiring talk from Professor Allen. So hopefully that it will, strengthen our efforts, and also maybe it will encourage us to write more and never-ending processes in publication, because this is the cycles of the process is very long and long way to go. So never hope that everything will come instantly to you. Thank you, Professor Allen, for sharing us very great ideas. And Bapak Ibu, thank you very much for joining us on this occasion. On behalf of Kantor Urusan Internasional, we would like to say thanks for joining us, and also we apologize for any inconvenience during this program. Okay, see you next time with the next talk from KUI. Let's close this program by saying Hamdalah together. Alhamdulillahirrabbilalamin. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. See you. Bye.
Thank you. Take care of yourself.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Stay blessed, Professor.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Yes. Too much. Yes. Thank you, back there.